In the previous video, I briefly illustrated interview procedures for a child referred for learning problems. At times, medical or environmental issues or educational disadvantage could contribute towards a child's academic difficulty. In this case, the child might be referred for medical or social assistance or for counseling. However, if the child is thought to have a genuine learning problem, she will be referred for psychoeducational assessment. This episode will help viewers to understand some commonly used psychoeducational assessment procedures and the insights that they could give us about a child's learning difficulty. I illustrate a large part of this presentation with the story of a child named Seema. Seema is only a representative figure to illustrate a variety of actual assessment procedures. Seema, a 7-year-old girl, was referred for assessment because she was finding it difficult to cope with her studies in school. After reviewing background issues with Seema's mother, the psychologist concluded that medical and environmental issues and educational disadvantage did not contribute to Seema's academic difficulty. She observed that Seema had difficulties with her posture, was restless, found it difficult to sustain attention on her task to read and write. The psychologist opined that the mother might get a better picture of Seema's difficulty if her abilities are assessed by various professionals. An occupational therapist would need to assess Seema's sensory integration abilities. A clinical psychologist could be asked to assess Seema's ability to sustain attention as well as her intellectual ability or her IQ. A special educator could assess her reading and writing abilities. We will take a brief look at these assessment procedures.
How is Seema's sensory processing abilities assessed?
The mother consulted an experienced occupational therapist to assess Seema's sensory processing abilities. The therapist briefly inquired about Seema's medical and developmental history and asked Seema to perform some simple practical tasks. She suggested that the Bruininks-Ostrowski test of motor proficiency might give a more accurate picture of Seema's ability. The mother permitted the occupational therapist to administer the test to Seema.
The test results indicated that she had a below-average ability to coordinate her hands and arms to manipulate objects, to control her fingers to grasp, draw, and cut, to coordinate her large muscles to maintain proper posture and balance, and to take part in competitive sports.
Some therapists may administer the classical sensory integration and praxis test or other similar tests to evaluate a child's performance in some of the areas that have just been described.
How was Seema's attention and activity level assessed?
The mother approached a clinical psychologist to assess Seema's level of attention and activity. The psychologist asked the mother to rate Seema's behavior on the Conners Comprehensive Behavior Rating Scale.
This rating scale helps to assess the degree to which children aged 6 to 18 display symptoms of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. It also screens children for academic difficulties, aggressive and perfectionist tendencies, and emotional or relationship difficulties. It has 3 forms that can be answered independently by the parent, teacher, or child. Seema's mother filled out the parent form. The test results indicated that Seema had a poor ability to remain attentive. This made it difficult for her to listen to what people were saying, stay focused on tasks, organize, and remember. Her struggle with reading, writing, spelling, and communicating contributed to her academic difficulty. Her tendency to be sad and worried, and her low energy levels indicated that she was emotionally distressed. The mother acknowledged that Seema's difficulties affected her school grades and relationships. Can other tests be used to assess whether a child has ADHD, emotional and behavior difficulties?
Yes. Other tests that psychologists commonly engage are
Why did the psychologist suggest that Seema undergo an IQ test?
scores on standardized intelligence quotient tests or IQ tests provide an indication of a child's intellectual capacity. If a child with average IQ scores and higher still struggles with reading, writing, and other academic tasks, she could possibly be suffering from a specific learning disorder.
What test did the psychologist use to assess Seema's intellectual capacity?
The psychologist had an option to use the Mallin's intelligence scales for Indian children, the Stanford Binet, or the WISC 3 or WISC 4. She chose to administer the third edition of the Wechsler intelligence scales for children, commonly known as the WISC 3, to Seema.
The test result indicated that Seema had a full-scale IQ score of 103. This score falls within the average range of intelligence. Her scores on the verbal subtests indicated that she had a good vocabulary and could comprehend and respond to spoken general knowledge questions with relative ease. However, she was not too good at handling performance or practical tasks like arranging pictures in sequence, arranging blocks according to a design in a picture, or copying figures. Seema's total IQ score suggested that her difficulty with reading and writing was not due to lack of intelligence. Thus, the psychologist referred Seema for psychoeducational assessment as she could possibly be having a specific learning disorder. What is psychoeducational assessment like?
Problems with reading, writing, and mathematics often lie at the root of a child's learning difficulty. Psychoeducational tests measure how a person functions in areas such as oral language and communication, reading, spelling, and mathematical ability. The special educator to whom Seema was referred chose to administer a comprehensive battery, the Woodcock Johnson Test of Achievement, 4th edition. The standard battery of the WJ4 has a total of 11 tests pertaining to reading, spelling, writing, and mathematics. The test results indicated that Seema had low or below average scores on several subtests such as word identification, spelling, word attack, sentence reading fluency, and writing fluency.
What conclusions could be arrived at on the basis of the tests that Seema underwent?
A few conclusions could be arrived at. Seema was intelligent enough to handle her academic tasks. However, a number of difficulties stood in her way. She was not able to sustain attention on tasks, had sensory integration difficulties, and had a difficulty with reading and writing. Her inability to handle her academic tasks also left her emotionally disturbed. She would benefit from sensory integrative therapy and remedial education. In addition, the assistance of a counselor would help her to deal with the emotional struggles she was experiencing.
Is the WJ the only test battery that assesses a child's reading, writing, and mathematical ability.
The Woodcock Johnson is a comprehensive battery that measures several aspects of a child's learning ability. Other tests are designed to assess specific areas only, such as oral language, reading ability, written expression, or mathematical ability. A child might be referred for any of these tests, depending on the specific kind of difficulty she displays. Let me sum up the key takeaways from this episode. A child may be referred for psychoeducational assessment after ensuring that medical and environmental issues and educational deprivation are not directly contributing to her deficient academic performance. Psychoeducational tests help to assess a child's capacity for sensory integration, level of attention and hyperactivity, level of intelligence, and ability to read, spell, write, and do mathematical computations. These professionals may choose from a variety of standardized tests commonly used in the city or town where she resides. A child may later be referred for sensory integrative therapy, speech therapy, or remedial education, depending on what the test results indicate. This brings part 1 of this series to an end. Thank you for being with us.